of Baghdad, home to more than 5 million Iraqi citizens and close to 50,000 U.S. soldiers. Coming up, we'll take you to the front lines in the war on terror and introduce you to a company of soldiers embarking on a new mission.
This is our exit strategy.
You'll hear their stories.
I'm ready to close with the enemy.
And see the war through their eyes.
We've got a mission that we've got to do. Let's go.
As they begin a year as Alpha Forward. The U.S. military declared victory in Iraq on May 1st, 2003. More than 3 years later, the conflict has become much more complicated. Sectarian violence, radical militias, and Al-Qaeda terrorists have turned the country into one of the most dangerous places in the world. In the middle of it all, the American soldiers. This is their story. When the nation calls for its best and brightest to fight and win our wars, it is these soldiers who heed that call.
See that box right there, that black box?
The 1st Cavalry Division out of Fort Hood, Texas, has deployed to Iraq twice in the past 3 years. They know the war on terror all too well. Alpha Company 18 Cav has set up shop in East Baghdad, just south of Sadr City. They know they have a long year ahead of them. As day becomes night, the soldiers retire to their quarters. They call Forward Operating Base Rustamiyah their home now. It's a small outpost in the new Baghdad district, manned by 4 U.S. Army battalions. The younger troops find some form of recreation for the night. While the leaders settle in at the company command post. Here, they'll discuss the day's events and brief the commander on upcoming missions.
Okay. And 3rd, you guys know when you're heading up there again?
One man bears the responsibility of the entire unit.
My name is Captain Matthew Stuckey. I'm the company commander for Alpha Company 18 Cav. I'm responsible for everything that the company does or fails to do.
Roughly 130 soldiers make up Alpha Company, with a handful of leaders giving orders.
Well, we've got 3 line platoons with Lieutenant Meyer, First Lieutenant Meyer and Sergeant First Class Rodriguez are in 1st platoon. First Lieutenant Harper and Sergeant First Class Glass are 2nd platoon. And Lieutenant Heath and Sergeant First Class Moran are 3rd platoon. Also got a headquarters section with myself, Commander, Captain Irwin, the XO, First Sergeant Gomez, the First Sergeant, and Staff Sergeant Kenzer, the Master Gunner, and Headquarters Platoon Sergeant. And Lieutenant Rathbun is our Fire Support Officer in the Headquarters section.
Alpha 306.
All 3 platoons have different personalities, based on, either the platoon leader and platoon sergeant, their personalities and their different styles, and also the NCOs and soldiers that make up the rest of those platoons. 3rd platoon, both platoon leader and platoon sergeant, they both got a temper. 1st platoon, platoon leader and platoon sergeant, they're both very calm, very relaxed. All of them very effective, very good leaders.
Those leaders would be tested early.
All right, that's all I got.
The soldiers of 2nd Platoon start their day with early morning convoy preparations.
7:15 there, Sergeant, I'm early.
A little too early for some.
7:15 is Red Con 1.
Today's patrol is supposed to be the first step of Alpha Company's new mission in Baghdad.
Oh, we're better late than never, Carter.
Recently we had a change of mission
now we're attached to a National Police transition team that we're actually trying to train the National Police and work with them to where that they can take over for their own country, and when we leave, the country won't be in chaos. So this is our way out, so this is a very important mission to train them.
The platoon leader, Lieutenant Harper, briefs his men on the day's task.
58.
Did he look like he was trying to hide, or did he look like he was tell whether he saw it or not?
To me, he didn't even try to hide. It was clear as day that he was signaling that we were there.
I knew we'd be working with Iraqi forces, but I didn't know we were going to be getting tasked as, basically a company-sized training team for the Iraqi National Police. I mean, that was a big surprise when that came down.
We went through a course of a couple weeks where we hadn't yet gotten the clear picture of what the mission was going to end up being. So it was a lot of sitting down and talking with the guys and telling them they were going to have to be subject matter experts, even though some of these guys were just out of basic a few months ago. So.
Unfortunately, Alpha Company still has responsibility for their sector as well as the National Police, so most of the training will have to be done on the streets. As they go out to meet their Iraqi counterparts, the soldiers are constantly on the lookout for snipers, car bombs, roadside bombs, and rocket-propelled grenade attacks. They're used to all this. What will take some adjustment is the new mission they're embarking on.
Well, obviously, the overall mission that we have here is to give the Iraqis the support they need in order to govern their own government and their own population here. Our specific company mission is we are working hand in hand with the Iraqi National Police, which is a new concept.
Rather than conducting company operations by ourselves with a few Iraqi police or Iraqi forces with us, we'll be helping the Iraqis conduct company operations with maybe a platoon or a couple squads from my company assisting them.
Second platoon arrives at the Iraqi National Police compound. The Iraqi troops aren't ready to go on patrol, so the soldiers wait. They're anxious to start working with the Iraqis, but they try to remain patient.
I believe this is our exit strategy. If we don't do a battle handover of this sector, of this city, of this nation, this country, we'll never get out of Iraq.
Right now we can probably do some of these things better than the National Police, but I don't want to be coming back here again in 18 months after we leave. And if we keep doing everything, then our country, the U.S. Army, will continue to be doing these operations in Iraq for another 6, 8, 10 years, who knows how long. If we transition them and train the Iraqi forces and have them conducting these operations and controlling their sectors, then it'll reduce the amount of time that there's any conflict here, because as local forces from their own country, they can control it better. And just having a national police force that can function and conduct operations, that's going to increase the confidence in the people and decrease the insurgents' ability to do anything. It'll decrease their support base, just having the National Police able to function. And then having them conducting independent operations and able to do things on their own, well, that means that we don't have to do them. And that means that, I won't have to spend another year away from my wife in 2 years from now, and my soldiers won't all have to come back here, and so on.
The Iraqi National Police don't want to go on patrol today, so 2nd Platoon heads back to camp. This day's mission was far from successful, and it's not the last time they'll come back with nothing to show for their efforts. Meanwhile, 1st Platoon is having similar problems.
Going out to the far one and coming back.
The National Police have agreed to go on patrol with Lieutenant Meyer and his men.
You take me in high road.
It's a start, but they'll only go as far as their security checkpoints.
They're pretty much stuck on working on checkpoints, and we need to get them away from their checkpoints and get out patrolling through the mohallas, through the neighborhoods. So we're working with them, trying to get them, to decrease the number of checkpoints that they have, so that they can get away from those and get out, walking around on the streets, and providing that security away from the checkpoints.
The patrol is short and uneventful. For now, it will have to do. Alpha Company is starting to realize just what a difficult undertaking training up the Iraqis is going to be.
Well, right now they kind of take for granted that we're here. So when we show up and say, hey, come out on a patrol with us, they're kind of more like, oh, we're busy, we're tasked out.
You know, Americans aren't used to that. They're used to people that just follow orders and that will work and they just do things for the greater good. And it's just a different mentality over here. But that's just part of their culture, I guess.
It seems like they can kind of do what they want. You know, like for us, if we had a mission, we would go on that mission, regardless how we felt about it. And seems like they can pick and choose what mission they go on. You know, that tells me a lot about their leadership.
I think probably the biggest challenge is I'm still not so sure that the Iraqis are 100% ready to take over their area. They still have issues as far as discipline amongst their ranks. I think they're still fairly disorganized to a degree. I think the intent behind a majority of them is there to take control of their own country, but I think they still rely on the U.S. way too much, and in some capacities maybe they become so dependent on us that they're going to refuse to get out of that mode of keeping us in their back pocket and to overwatch them all the time.
The language barrier is always a difficult thing. You have to have interpreters interpret everything you say, and there's only one maybe per platoon. So it's difficult to communicate too.
Because you're also working against centuries of Arabic culture. They don't like to admit when they're wrong. They don't like to admit what they don't know. So you really have to work with them, and there's no term in Arabic for constructive criticism. So you've got to sort of pat them on the back and sort of get the hint across how the right way is to do things as you're basically telling them they're messed up.
A lot of these guys are willing to do it. They're willing to learn. They just don't have the right knowledge. And they're willing to work with you, but we got a lot of guys that they don't trust people because they see one bad guy and they don't want to trust nobody else. And they don't have the people skills to work with these guys. So you got to be willing to work with them.
Okay. No.
Alpha Company has been trying to work with the National Police for just a few weeks now. It's early, but the lack of results have left some of the soldiers aggravated.
It's very frustrating. It's frustrating for everyone, myself, my men, because when, we're told that the better we do on our mission, the less likely the Army and 1st Cav will have to come back to this country. So when we go out and the National Police don't want to do anything, and we can't make them, we can only ask. So that's probably the biggest frustration we've had so far.
I can tell the guys every day that, hey, be patient. We have to be patient. Things aren't going to go as fast as we want them to. But, even me, I get frustrated too that, they're not performing at the level that we'd expect a U.S. American Army unit to perform at. And yeah, obviously they're not there yet. And that's frustrating to our guys because, especially the leaders in the company, they're putting, their soldiers' lives on the line, rolling out on missions with these national police who, in their eyes, don't measure up to, a U.S. standard of, what they should be able to do. And it takes time for us to build the relationship with the Iraqi soldiers and the Iraqi leadership and get to that point where, you know, they trust us and they're willing to go on, you know, where we go up and tell them, hey, you know, we've got a mission that we've got to do. Let's go. You know, let's get your guys, let's plan it out, and let's go. And, you know, we're not at that point yet. We haven't got there yet. And so that's frustrating it's frustrating for me, it's frustrating for most of the guys in the company.
Their mission is going to take time, but the enemy they're fighting is less than patient. 2nd Platoon comes under fire on their way back from a patrol.
Stand to your right, Gunner! Stand to your right!
2 rocket-propelled grenades narrowly miss their trucks. They regroup at the National Police compound.
You see RPG?
They made the mistake of coming back the same route that they left from. Their attackers were waiting for them.
It was straight after him. The smoke came from the tall building to the corner.
The rockets were aimed at 2nd Platoon's up-armored Humvees, despite the fact they could have done more damage to the Iraqi police trucks.
The mortar shooting from where?
It's not a mortar, it's a freaking RPG.
Alpha Company knows no matter who they're patrolling with, they're the choice target of the insurgents.
Because the people must understand we have not another way to the back. Same way, same back. They can
I say we hit
go
those
or
2
stay.
houses.
Is it stay or go?
We got time? Well, we gotta get to that meeting.
The soldiers are eager to make a quick counterattack, but they know it's already too late.
We don't got time because we gotta get this. Yeah, they're gone. They're gone. They're gone.
The enemy Alpha Company faces is elusive. He hides in plain sight in the streets and homes of the sector they patrol, as well as within the National Police.
I'd probably say that there's a very large element of corruption